Happy Halloween, people of the internet. Wolfman47 here, and no, I'm not going to be doing another Paranormal Activity video in the dark. No, I've learnt my lesson with that. That no one could see me in that, even though I thought people could. But I guess some people's resolutions on TV is different from others. Now, I know I've talked previously about the Paranormal Activity films in the old format of my Let's Talk videos, but because I've changed the format of that into being more review-based, I thought it was time to sort of launch a new vlog series called Let's Review. Now, I know lots of YouTubers have done this where they've done reviews or videos of things previously, and then they decide to take a look at them again in a new format and so forth. And yeah, I'm joining that merry band today, as of today. So this series is going to be basically just taking a look at all the things I've talked about in the old format of the Let's Talk videos up until when I did my review of The Substance, which changed the format of it. So yeah. So today we're going to be talking about Paranormal Activity again. This time talking about each of the films and all the spin-off media that came with it. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get access at all to the documentary, which I believe is called Unknown Dimension: The Story of Paranormal Activity, for various reasons. Like I can't get on streaming here. I can't get on streaming here, and I can't buy or rent it anywhere without using some kind of VPN service, which I don't really use because I don't really want to waste too much money on that. So I'm just going to focus on the things that I have been able to access and I've been able to see, listen to, read, etc. So let's go. So first up, we have the very first film, which I don't need to explain. It's obviously Paranormal Activity. So, actors Katie Featherston and Mika Slott play fictionalized versions of themselves, although the film implies that the footage is real and everything, and even at the beginning says the blah 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 wants to thank the police for all this stuff. So yeah, but yeah, Mika and Katie are this couple that move into this house. Katie has been experiencing some strange ghostly presence, so Mika makes it his mission to capture the sort of spiritual stuff that goes on with a camera. Now in this film, it's just focused on one camera in the one room, and it's only ever moved about sort of during the day and during the night when the ghostly presence comes about. So this film kind of makes out that there is a ghostly presence, and usually it only happens at night, but sometimes can happen during the day as well. And eventually it does get to that point where Katie is fully possessed by this being, demon, whatever you want to call it, and it proves a danger to her and to Mika, and things transpire and everything. They get a demonologist to sort of figure things out. I think that's the profession, and all sorts of other stuff as well. So overall, I think although this was the film that kind of that made the found footage format popular again, it does do well in sort of trying to keep things nice and simple, not overcomplicating it, just trying to get straight to the point of the whole idea that they're trying to film the paranormal activity that's happening, hence the name. So yeah, and I like how simple it is and straightforward, and it's not like any of the sequels where they just kind of make things a little bit complicated, but it is what it is. And as I understand it is filmed, they make out that it's filmed over a week, I think, or longer bit, I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to give the first Paranormal Activity film an 8 out of 10. So next is Paranormal Activity 2. So despite the name, this one is actually a kind of sort of prequel to the first one, but is a sort of midquel as well, because towards the end we do get that scene where Katie and Mika move into their new place, and then they sort of play the sort of first scene of the first film, and then it's right at the end of the film where we actually do get the actual sequel part of this film. But anyway. So this time around we're focusing on Katie's sister, Christy, who lives with her partner Daniel, and who who recently broke up from a previous marriage and has brought his daughter Kelly, I think is her name is. I'll check that. I'll check that later when I edit it. And also they also have a newborn called Hunter. Now, in the film, the ghostly presence is there, and this time around, instead of focusing on one room, we get all sorts of different angles from all sorts of different rooms because there's a sort of security cam footage put up, which was mainly to sort of keep an eye on things in the swimming pool that they have, because as most people know, sometimes kids experiencing puberty and other things may go into the pool and sort of experiment with that. So yeah. In this film, the ghostly presence is there. It's implied that Hunter's is the first male-born, being that for many years this sort of ghostly presence has been promised for, and he finally has it in his grasp, and does whatever he can to get it. Basically, trying to sort of fully possess Chrissy, whatever her name is. Which then forces Daniel to recruit this sort of caretaker lady person who was trying to get rid of the spirits, but he had to fire her because she was doing stuff, and they bring her back to sort of help things, and then everything transpires and everything. So yeah, so this one is kind of filmed over a longer period of time compared to the first one, and I kind of like how in this one they try and show things from different angles, show how a dog reacts to it, shows how all these other characters react to it, and just shows all the sort of, and that's a bit of a funny side to it as well, just sort of seeing what this ghostly presence is doing to this little device in the pool, which as I understand is a device to clean the pool up. But anyway. So, Paranormal Activity 2, I think could have had a different name, because 2 makes out that it's a sequel. And yeah, okay, there is a part that is set after the first one, but when you call something 2, I'd expect it to be a sequel, not a prequel, but it's a bit misleading. But anyway, despite that, I thought it was okay. I thought it was an okay film. I'm also going to give it an 8 out of 10. Bringing us on to Paranormal Activity 3, which once again is a prequel. So this time we get a sort of scene which I'm not entirely sure where it's set, but we get a scene where we see all these VHS tapes, and then suddenly the VHS tapes go missing, and then the rest of the film is made up of those VHS tapes. So this time out, it's a full blown prequel set long before 1 and 2, and sees Kirsty and Katie as children, and basically their first experiences of encountering the ghost being, which in this film is finally given a name, Toby, which in later films in this film it's made out that it's spelled Toby, but later films makes out it's spelled Tobi for reasons. So in the film, Katie and Kirsty are just sort of playing around, doing what they do. Their father figure person, I forget the name of, suddenly sees some ghostly presence and decides to capture it on video somehow. And once again, it's done in different angles. And Toby terrorizes the babysitter. He terrorizes the girl's mother. And not only is it set not only does the ghostly presence happen at night, but it also happens during the day this time as well, when they start playing the Bloody Mary game. And yeah, this film is definitely does answer a few questions, like the name of the ghost, what's his purpose and everything. And I do kind of like it from that perspective. I think the thing that really confuses me is the ending of it. Like, every time the film ends, obviously the characters are implied that they're dead, and they're dead. Like in the first film, depending on which ending you go for, because there's like multiple endings, it always usually ends with Katie coming back to the room somehow. Obviously the canon ending is when she throws Mika to the camera and then does her demonic smile at the end. But then there's like others where she cuts her throat and everything. In the second film, the fully possessed Katie kills much of Chrissy's family, including Kirsty, whatever herself, and takes Hunter away. And then in this film, the mother dies, the father dies, and the children are sort of taken away by their grandmother, who's part of this witch coven thing. So yeah, it does kind of have a more confusing ending than a sort of ending that feels like it feels satisfactory or whatever. So yeah, but it's an okay film again. It's just it has a misleading ending and a confusing ending and also another misleading title. So I'm gonna give this a slightly lower rating of 7 out of 10. Still good, but yeah, it is what it is. So next is Paranormal Activity 4, which at long last is a sequel to all three of those films. This time focusing on a completely different family that are completely unrelated to Katie and her family, but Katie and Hunter do appear in the film, and in this one we focus on this girl and her boyfriend. The girl is an actress that's quite well known, who has appeared in films like Detective Pikachu and the last Ant-Man film. And in the film, she and her boyfriend come across some ghostly presence in her house, and sort of try and stop it. And it gets to a point where Katie is trying to sort of using the power that Toby has given her to enter the house and take her younger brother that she thinks is Hunter or something else, and sort of take him away. And all this stuff happens. Witch clothing comes in and all sorts, and also in this one we actually do get some footage being shot over a Kinect, which is interesting because Kinect can pick up different body styles and everything, and it's actually this time where we actually do see a physical form of the ghostly presence. The only problem is that it kind of sort of takes away the sort of scary and fearful parts of the film. And honestly, even though this film is right to sort of try and focus on a completely different family while trying to stay connected to the rest of the films, it's more confusing than ever. Like, it's got way too many more questions to be asked, and just it's more confusing as heck, and it's just not as scary as the other ones are. But of course, if you're going into this watching this for the first time and not actually bothered seeing the other films, then you probably are going to get scared, but not to me. Because, you know, sometimes when you get jump scares and everything, it just gets a little bit predictable when you know it's coming, and they just spend way too long building up to it, which is one of the big problems about this film. So Paranormal Activity 4 is unfortunately going to get an even lower a lower rating of 6 out of 10. So next is the final film to feature Katie, which is The Marked Ones. So The Marked Ones is a kind of spin-off kind of film, completely focusing on a completely different family that have zero connection with Katie's family whatsoever, but a ghostly presence is very much present in their sort of area, and they do try and connect the first three films to this one, not completely ignoring the fourth one for some reason, but it is what it is. So yeah, it's focused on, and I'm gonna judge it based on how I remember it. It's focused on a sort of Mexican kind of family, or kind of close to Puerto Rican or whatever, and they start to experience some ghostly presence from this woman who lives downstairs. People commit suicide. Things transpire. Cameo appearances appear in the form of the one surviving member of Chrissy's family from the second film, and also Katie and Mika appear in the finale as well. And then we kind of see things from this guy's point of view, where he finds some kind of time portal to get to the point where Katie finally kills Mika and so forth and everything. So yeah, it's a confusing one, but great that they tried to sort of focus on something a little bit different this time. But yeah, it's still not great, and it's just slowly getting to the point where it's kind of like declining in quality now, and not as scary as it used to be. But I get what the marked ones was trying to do. Was trying to do things differently. So I'm going to give the marked ones. I'm going to be fair to it. I don't think it's a terrible film, but at the same time I don't think it's a bad film, but I do have to give it a rating, and I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. So now we come to what was marketed as the final film of the Paranormal Activity films, but in my opinion is kind of the final film of the sort of original series of films, because the next one after this one's kind of a sort of reboot of it. But anyway, so Ghost Dimension. Now, this film was marketed as a 3D film, and I honestly don't get why horror films think they can work better in 3D, because to me this film didn't really need to be in 3D. It just is what it is. So once again, this is focused on another family, and the way that they shoot footage this time is done in such a way that we actually do get to see the ghostly presence this time, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's kind of not like in Paranormal Activity 4, where we only saw the being when the footage was shot on the Kinect. This time it's kind of like it's trying to be 3D effects and everything, and so forth. And we do get to see the human form of Toby this time and everything. And also young Katie and Kirsty in this as well. And yeah, that's all I've got to say. It's more confusing. It's once again confusing. Probably the worst one of the franchise at large, if I'm being honest, because it's not scary. It's not really all that scary, and the climax doesn't feel all that satisfactory, and I just don't like it very much. So I'm just going to give it a 3 out of 10, because I just don't like it that much. Bringing us on to the final film of the overall franchise, which is Next of Kin. So this one is kind of a soft reboot or so forth, and it focuses on a camera crew who go to this Amish, whatever it's called, community where strange things are occurring, and this time the film is kind of shot in a very unique kind of way. For the first time, it's actually shot in a unique kind of way. So this time out, they sort of use sort of special effects when they're sort of shooting the footage. In that we get all these sort of different effects that you can use on Apple phones and Samsung phones. So slow motion, sort of visual effects and everything. And it kind of makes the film look a bit more well presented than it has done before. And I kind of think that going to an Amish whatever community, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong or my bad, it's an interesting concept, definitely one that could have been explored a lot more. The only thing is, because I've already seen like all the rest of the films at this point, it's definitely scary for sure, but it kind of loses the sort of point of the. It kind of sort of loses the point of the previous films, where you're not actually where you're trying to sort of shoot footage of the paranormal activity by leaving the cameras alone and only picking it up when the ghostly presence is actually sort of causing wrecking havoc and everything. Whereas this time it kind of feels like that they're always on the move, always on the run and everything. And even towards the climax of the film, there's this, we get to see these sort of demonic beings trying to stop the what's left of the camera crew. Eventually getting to the end where the police kill themselves and everything. So probably just as well that this was marketed as the very last final film, and for real this time the final film, because although it's a little better than Ghost Dimension, it's not that much better. It's not that much better than the rest of the films. So I'm going to reluctantly give this final one, because I thought it was better, but not that much better. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. And that kind of concludes all the feature films that come out, but we're not done yet. We've still got 4 things to get through. So next film is Tokyo Nights. So this is a non-canon sequel to the first Paranormal Activity film. This time set in Tokyo, obviously. So it's a foreign language film, and I don't, and it's kind of pretty much just an almost copycat of the first Paranormal Activity film. The only difference being that it's focused on a on a sort of Japanese family who try and fight this demon, but obviously they try and do things a little differently. And honestly, it's fine, but it is what it is. It's basically another version of Paranormal Activity done with a Tokyo cast and crew, and yeah, I thought it was okay. Not that much better than the other films, but I thought it was okay. So I'm going to be fair to it, and I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. So, as part of the marketing for one of the films, I think it was for the fourth film, I believe, there was this web series, which I'm just going to describe it as Jacob Degloshi. So, web series that's on YouTube, and it's a sort of a fake profile where he's got this YouTube channel, and he's basically sort of capturing ghostly presence that's in his sort of house. Much of the videos are basically less than a minute or slightly more, and it's basically what you expect it to be. A lot of found footage videos, just capturing ghost presence. It could work as a short film if combined together, but you know it served its purpose, and it was a nice change from the traditional feature film length. You could just watch each part and see how things transpire and everything. You know, some good, some bad, and so forth. And it was a very interesting way to sort of shoot that sort of story of Jacob Degloshi trying to figure out what's going on with his daughter and everything. So yeah, the problem is it doesn't really make clear which parts go where. So I was watching it in upload date order. Some of you might want to watch it in a different order, but I watched it in upload date order, and it did make sense in a way, but it is what it is. So I'm going to give that web series a 7 out of 10 because I just like how more original it was trying to be in sort of portraying the ghostly presence. So yeah. Next is the VR video game, The Lost Soul, and I'll just come out and say that I actually didn't get very far in playing this game. I did the sort of menu bit, I did a tutorial, and then we got to the house, and I couldn't find a key. So, yeah. So, yeah, I guess if I was playing this in actual proper VR, then I probably would have found the key, but, yeah, it's for a video game based on Paranormal Activity. I'm just going to judge it based on how far I got, and, yeah, it definitely could have been more developed in the sort of flat version of it, because it kind of sort of just is a straight up direct copy of the actual VR game. But yeah, they needed to develop it a little better, because at least with the FNAF VR games, they actually do look a lot better when they're flat and all that. So yeah, but anyway, I'm going to give The Lost Soul, just on the basis that I didn't get very far, a 3 out of 10. And that leads us very nicely onto the final thing I'm going to talk about, which is this podcast series on Audible called True Tales of Possession. So this podcast has Mika and Katie as themselves hosting it, and sort of talking about exorcism and sort of things that happen with paranormal and everything. And they have all these guests coming on and so forth, talking about all this kind of stuff, and it was definitely an interesting podcast to listen to. I definitely found a lot of enjoyment out, but it was definitely a very, very fun, very informative, very interesting, and also because it's an audio series, it meant that anything that sort of happens in that, anytime they were telling like stories, I kind of had to use my imagination a bit, and I do kind of like when in sort of podcasts and radio dramas and everything that they left just to your imagination as to how you sort of think it might happen, and I do kind of like it that way. As a podcast that is sort of about that, and also does sort of talk about the films as well, it was definitely an interesting listen for sure. It's an exclusive on Audible, and it's probably, out of all of these things, it's probably the best thing of the franchise, only because it's it's different. It's not found footage. It's not fictionalized everything. It's all real and everything, and I do kind of like it. So I'm gonna give True Tales of Possession overall, as one season from Audible, a 9 out of 10. And that, at long last, concludes my actual reviews of the Paranormal Activity franchise. Yeah, I don't see it continuing anytime soon because the found footage genre is kind of. I know some people are still sort of using it, but it's not as popular as it once was, and probably just as well because because the franchise was good to begin with. I always think the first three films are the best ones, even though the third one has a slightly lower rating. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. Some will like it, some will hate it, some will have mixed feelings about it. But I wouldn't be surprised if you all get confused about what's going on and everything. So yeah. But anyway, that's what I've got to say about Paranormal Activity. If you've got your own thoughts about the franchise, I'd love to hear what you think about it. So, fire off on the comments, and I'll hope to read them at some point, and I'll react to them, because I'm definitely one of those YouTubers that will definitely acknowledge what you say and react as and when I feel it's appropriate. So, just for your reassurance there. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe if you can, please. Those of you new to the channel, excuse me, I do topical vlogs like this, usually every Thursday, but obviously it's a special occasion because it's Halloween today, so yeah. I also do gameplay videos every Monday and Tuesday, where I'm just doing a series of videos focusing on a long game, and I'm alternating between 4 games at the moment. I also every Wednesday I do a Let's Play video where I'm playing a game, you hear me talk and everything. And the rest of the week I do special videos like this, reviews, hauls, rants on life, videos with friends, funny shorts, and loads more. See you in the next one. Peace to you all. And remember, if you feel you have a ghostly presence in your house, do capture footage of it, and maybe, try and get out of that situation, because if these films are anything to go by, it's probably best that you try and get out of a situation like that as best you can, because otherwise you might get fully possessed. You might be at risk of dying in a very bizarre and over the top kind of way. So yeah, it's just best to just get out of the situation, basically. So yeah, alright. Toodles, and have a good Halloween. Be safe out there.